Okay, so let's unpack this memory lane journey because what you shared with us, it isn't just a recipe. It's more like the blueprint for a massive logistical operation,
Yeah.
all just pretending to be a simple family day trip.
It truly is. I
Hmm.
mean, when we dive into these sources, the sheer scale of the commitment, it jumps out immediately. We're not
Right.
talking about a quick car ride with, like, a nuclear family. This was a whole movement. Huge crowds, 10 to 15 people minimum, mostly children, all traveling to nearby temples for a day.
And the most incredible part to me, the family brought the entire kitchen with them.
The whole thing.
The stove, the specific vessels, all the groceries. So whether they cooked everything the night before and hauled it or finished the cooking right there at the destination,
Right.
the mother and grandmother were basically running a high-volume catering service on wheels
Hmm.
just to feed an army of extended family.
Well, and the standard playbook for this kind of travel food is really all about efficiency
Mm-hmm.
and stability. That's why the traditional easy menu was so reliable. You had your lemon rice, potato fry, and chapati. Those are, low effort, high stability dishes.
Lemon rice especially.
Oh, yeah. Lemon rice is quick to temper, and it holds up really well for travel. It's the sensible default choice.
But sensible doesn't always win, does it? And here's where the narrative hook comes in, and it's just a beautiful piece of family history. The entire logistical challenge was complicated by a highly specific, highly influential preference.
The listener's brother.
The listener's brother, who absolutely despised lemon rice.
That one detail, that hatred, it forced a culinary evolution. Instead of relying on the simple, bright flavor of lemon rice, the family had to pivot.
They had to create something else.
Exactly, an aromatic alternative that was just as stable, but far more complex. The puliogare, or tamarind rice. And this wasn't just a side dish. It became the star.
So our mission today is to explore how this complex, multi-day recipe, prepared purely to satisfy one picky eater, was strategically planned and executed for massive crowds and long journeys.
And you really can't talk about puliogare without starting with the single most crucial, indispensable component, the part that requires preparation a full 24 hours in advance.
A powder mix.
The powder mix. If we look at the logistics, this recipe, it just demands respect. Because the deep work had to start the day before just to make that essential powder.
It couldn't wait until the morning of departure?
No way. It had to be cool, ground, and ready to go. And they weren't just making a single portion. They were batch making enough powder for 5 to 6 servings. That's a truly significant volume.
That immediately changes the whole environment of the home, doesn't it?
Oh, completely.
You mentioned the sensory memory in the source material, this powerful, memorable aroma that would just fill the entire house when the mother, guided by the precise instructions of the grandmother, made this powder.
Mm-hmm.
That smell wasn't just spices, right? That was the smell of ceremony, the smell of an impending journey. It signals that this intensely layered flavor profile is about to be built.
That preparation is truly the foundation of the whole dish. And it highlights why this is a deep dive, not just a recipe. The proportions are incredibly specific. They move way beyond what you just grab from a spice jar. So let's break down the core ingredients that require that careful dry roasting.
Okay, let's unpack this mix. You start with the body of the powder, which comes from the two main dals.
Huh?
1 cup of chana dal and 1 cup of urad dal.
Exactly. And those aren't just for flavor. They serve a structural purpose. The split chickpeas, the chana dal, they add that required protein base and body.
And the urad dal.
The urad dal, or split black lentils, that helps thicken the final paste. When you grind them, they give the powder density. It stops it from tasting thin or, one-dimensional. This is why they have to be dry roasted first, to maximize that nutty flavor and make sure they're totally dry before grinding.
Then we layer in the heat and the smaller measured spices. You have the aromatics, 2 teaspoons of jura, that's cumin, 1 teaspoon of mustard seeds. And here's a critical note for anyone listening, 1 teaspoon of fenugreek. The source material notes are a bit more.
That bit more is so telling, isn't it?
It is.
Fenugreek, or methi, is powerful. It adds this essential bitterness and depth that balances the future sweetness of the jaggery and the sourness of the tamarind. But if you use too much, it just overpowers everything. It takes a confident, experienced hand to get that balance just right.
For bulk and direct heat, we've got half a cup of coriander seeds and 7 to 8 red chilies. You can adjust the chilies based on your family's spice tolerance, of course, but the key is that these are dry ingredients contributing to the overall volume and heat signature of the mix.
Okay, now here is where this specific family recipe sort of diverges and becomes truly unique. The star ingredient, the one that guarantees success in both flavor and preservation,
The white till seeds.
the white-tail seeds.
Wait, let me stop you there,
Yeah.
because the quantity specified is significant. You don't just use a pinch of sesame seeds for garnish here.
Not at all.
You use 1 or 1.5 cups of white till seeds. That's explicitly noted as being a bit more than the dal itself. Why such a high ratio? I mean, that sounds expensive and time-consuming.
That is a brilliant question, and it speaks to the hidden engineering of this travel food. White-tail seeds are packed with oil.
Okay.
By incorporating such a high volume, more than the structural lentils, the resulting powder, once it's ground, will be naturally oily, almost like a paste. This high-fat content serves two major purposes.
Which are?
First, richness, obviously. But second, and most critically for travel, preservation. Oil is a fantastic natural preservative. It coats the ground spices, it locks in the flavor, and, crucially, it helps to stabilize the finished dish against spoilage during a long, hot day trip.
So it's a logistical investment.
Baked right into the recipe.
That's fascinating. They're essentially building a preservative layer right into the core flavor component. And we can't forget the pungent notes, right? Curry leaves and, of course, hing or asafoetida for that final savory foundation.
Absolutely. Now, for the process itself,
Right.
the roasting, the instruction is strict. You dry roast all of this on a low flame until the mustard seeds pop.
You can't rush this part.
You really can't. If you turn up the heat, those volatile oils in the sesame seeds and coriander, they'll just burn. The whole mix will turn acrid, and you'll ruin the depth of flavor. Low and slow is the secret to extracting the maximum nuttiness.
It's an exercise in patience. And once that beautiful little pop of the mustard seed happens, signaling the ideal temperature has been reached, the heat is switched off immediately. But this mixture is still retaining heat, so you have to spread it out. You use a big plate or a clean, dry cloth to let it cool down entirely.
And that cooling step is non-negotiable. You'll grind hot or even warm spices, they will sweat, they'll clump up, and you'll end up with this sticky, inferior paste instead of a uniform, fluffy powder. Only once it is completely cooled down, which can take hours, is it ready to be pulverized. Whether the family used a traditional mortar and pestle or a modern mixer, this powder, prepared a full day in advance, is the key to feeding 15 hungry people.
So, the foundation is built, the aroma has saturated the entire house, and the powder is sealed away. We fast forward to the day of the journey, or maybe the morning before the final assembly. Now we move into the actual building of the Puliogare. And you can't just dump that dense, rich spice mix into piping hot rice. That would be a culinary disaster.
Oh, it would ruin the texture completely. The rice preparation itself is the first step in assembly, and it really demonstrates the layering technique of this dish. You cook the rice separately, make sure it's not mushy, and then the magic touch. You drizzle it with a bit of sesame oil.
Why sesame oil specifically at this stage?
Well, again, it's multifaceted. It adds flavor, certainly, but its main functional role here is to coat the individual grains.
Ah, so they don't stick.
Exactly. It prevents the rice from clumping together, and it ensures that when that thick, acidic tamarind paste is introduced later, every single grain can be coated evenly without turning into a heavy mash. You spread it out and let it cool completely. You need cool, separate rice for this whole thing to work.
Okay, now we enter this intensive oil-based flavoring process, which I think is unique because they use oil 3 separate times. Once for the rice, once for the base, and once for the final tempering.
This starts with the base tempering.
Right.
You take a kadai, a deep cooking vessel, and you pour the oil in generously. Once it's hot, you add the first round of tempering ingredients on a low flame. A spoonful each of chana dal, urad dal, jeera, and sesame seeds. This first fry, it sets the savory, nutty backdrop for the tamarind.
So it's like a secondary roasting, but done in fat instead of dry heat.
Precisely. It's about building a layer of texture and deep, slow-cooked flavor that's different from the dry roasted powder. But the key component, the acid that gives Puliogare its name and its defining character, is the tamarind pulp.
And the source material gave us a wonderful, relatable measurement for this. The tamarind size should be equal to a big-sized lemon. That gives you an immediate visceral sense of the required tartness and volume. This dish is meant to punch you in the mouth with sour flavor.
It is, and the preparation here is rigorous. You have to soak the tamarind, the source material uses a lovely word, socket, and then squeeze the liquid out. Then, critically, you have to strain it. This removes all the fibrous stuff and any leftover seeds, ensuring the paste is just purely smooth concentrated flavor.
And that strained, highly acidic tamarind pulp goes directly into the kadai with the tempering ingredients. This is the moment you build that thick, deeply flavored matrix.
Yep. You incorporate salt and turmeric powder for color and mix it all thoroughly into the sour liquid, letting it cook down
It
slightly.
has to reduce, right?
It needs to reduce until it reaches a thick consistency, often called the Puliogare goju, or paste. This is the stage where that complex acid profile is created. And only once that base is built and mixed does the payoff happen. You add the previously prepared masala powder, the result of the day before effort, and you stir it nicely into this thick, acidic, simmering base.
So the preservation strategy is working on two levels. We have the preservation from the high oil content of the sesame seeds in the powder, and now we're mixing it into a highly acidic base, the tamarind, which is also a natural preservative.
That's it.
This recipe really is culinary engineering designed for hostile travel conditions.
It is. The use of generous oil isn't accidental or simply for taste. It's functional. When you are cooking for a crowd and the food has to sit in a hot car or outdoors for hours before being eaten, maximizing oil and acid is your best defense against spoilage. The amount of oil used in traditional travel food like this is the hidden secret to its shelf stability.
We've now built this massive, complex flavor base, but the process still isn't over. There is a final separate tempering that needs to happen right before you combine everything. Why the necessity for a third tempering?
Because that tamarind paste is so deeply cooked and dark, the dish needs a counterpoint. It needs a burst of freshness and crunch that contrasts with all those deep savory notes.
Hmm.
This is why the final tempering is often done quickly and separately.
Okay, walk us through this final flourish.
So you take oil in a separate, smaller kadai, you add mustard, jeera, and crucially, peanuts, and you fry them. The peanuts are essential for providing that textural contrast. After hours of travel, you want something in the food that, snaps back.
And then the freshest component is introduced right into that final hot oil mixture, the curry leaves.
Yes, the leaves hit the hot oil, they immediately release their bright, volatile oils, giving a vibrant, fresh aroma right at the very end. That fragrant oil, full of crunchy peanuts and freshly popped spices, is then poured onto the cool, waiting rice mix.
This is the moment of truth.
It is. You mix it all thoroughly, making sure the thick flavor paste and the crunchy, fresh tempering are distributed evenly throughout the cool, separated rice grains. You check for salt, and that's it. You have a massive batch of perfect preserved puliogare, which the source material notes is always best served with a crisp pop hat on the side.
So what does this all mean when we synthesize the entire process? I mean, we started with a simple logistical need, feeding 15 people efficiently on a day trip. The default was easy, fast, stable lemon rice.
But the whole narrative was interrupted by the high-stakes preference of the listener's brother. The need to accommodate that one person launched an entire, multi-day, complex culinary effort. The transition from the simple menu to this layered, acidic, oil-rich puliogare required precise steps, starting the day before.
It just speaks volumes about the generosity and dedication of the cooking family members. They undertook this intensive preparation, measuring those copious white-till seeds, investing in all that oil and tamarind, not just for the love of food, but specifically to honor one kid's preference. It's a ceremonial effort contained in a simple-looking dish.
And you, the listener, you can now appreciate that when you encounter intensely flavored traditional recipes that require this kind of multi-day process, they're often built this way, layer by layer, day by day.